This is the animation that we're going to recreate in this video. And here's the comparison between my animation and Iman's one.
They're going to tell you that the reason they succeeded was due to all of the hard work that they put in, the risks they took, and their discipline to show up and stay consistent day after day.
Let's break this down in 8 steps.
They're going to tell you that the reason they succeeded was due to all of the hard work that they put in, the risks they took, and their discipline to show up and stay consistent day after day.
Let's start this animation, and let's first go in the composition settings. And as you can see, I'm going to use a simple 1920 by 1080 16 by 9 aspect ratio with 30 fps. You can copy my settings if you want. For the duration, I'll leave it on 15 and then adjust it later. Background color on black, and I'll call it animation to share. You can find this project file in the Gumroad down below. It's completely free. Feel free to check it out. Then I'll click OK. And as you can see, we have our composition. Now I'll drag on my footage. These are all the assets that we will need. So we have the animation from Iman, from which we'll take inspiration and the audio. Then we will have the cigarette smoke, which we will use later. And now we have our background and our foreground. Keep in mind that our background, as you can see, is a bit glitched, but it does not matter. The only thing I was focused on Photoshop while using generative fill was this part above, because when we are going to make our head nod, as you can see in Iman's animation, we're going to uncover just a bit of the background behind here and behind here. So we do not have to worry about all of the imperfections which are right here. Does not matter at all. So I'll go ahead and reduce my work area until here, and then I will cut all of my footage right here by pressing Ctrl-Shift-D. And I will also cut one frame more on all of this stuff so that we finish perfectly with this red guy in Iman's animation, as you can see. Now let's go ahead and start animating. The first thing that we'll do is go ahead and create the movement. Now we could create it with some keyframes on the actual layers, but I prefer to do it with a null object because later we will have to apply the movement also to the smoke and to the lines. Therefore, it's going to be way easier to create a null object and then transfer the keyframes right away. So let's go ahead and right click, new, and then we click on null object, and we're going to create this null. I'm going to go ahead and call it animator because it is going to animate the whole scene. How do we use the animator? Well, to use it, we can do a certain movement. In this case, what we are going to do is we are going to do a scale movement. We are going to do a zoom out. So I will put it at 92 here, and nothing is going to happen. As you can see, if I play it now, nothing is happening. And now if I link my character and my background to the animator, what I'm going to get is this smooth zoom out, as you can see, which is perfect for our scene because that's what we are exactly looking for. If I replay the animation from Iman in solo so that we can see only this one, only this layer, as you can see, there is this movement of the camera going backwards, all right? And that's what we're looking for. And we're going to check where does it exactly end. And it's exactly here, as you can see, if I go one frame forward and one frame backwards. So I'll move my keyframe until here, and then here the perspective is going to change. So let's remove this solo layer and let's add this zoom as well. So this zoom is going to be something like 130, and then I will also need to move the camera. So I'll go one frame backwards, hit a keyframe on position, and then one frame forward. So I'll move it upwards, 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 and let's look at them now. So this is Iman's and this is ours. I think we could put our guy, this one, as you can see, a bit more to the left, like Iman's one, because right now it's a bit too much to the right. So let's go ahead and do this. So if you look at Iman's animation, right now there is a movement to the right. So let's go ahead and recreate that on our animation by moving everything to the right. Let's do a bit more. And now we're going to have this animation of the whole thing moving. However, I want it to be a bit smoother and not too much. So let's try something like this. I think this looks way better now. So now we need to create a couple more things, which are the text, the fade, the lines. Let's start with the lines. So I will go ahead and close this animator, and then I will go ahead and create two lines. To create lines, what you need to do is go on new shape layer, and now you're going to click the pen tool To drag a line, we're going to create a point here and a point somewhere here. However, as you can see, this line is not straight. So to make it straight, you hit Ctrl Z so that you remove the past point, and then you simply hold Shift and click down. As you can see, it's going to be straightened. Doesn't matter where you click, it's going to be straight. So this is perfect. We have our red line, and now let's go ahead and rename this red line so that we don't forget. Now I'll Ctrl C and Ctrl V so that I duplicate, as you can see, and I will rename this to gray line, which is perfect. Now I will actually modify this to a gray line, and something like this should be good. I will put the red line above the gray line because that's how it looks in Iman's animation. As you can see, the red line goes over the gray line. And then if we look at Iman's animation, here on the red line, there is a bit of a glow. So let's go ahead and add that to our red line. To do that, I'll click on the red line, reduce the properties, click on effects. And if you do not have this, just go on Window and search for effects and presets. Now we will search the effect called glow, and we will drag it on top of our red line. As you can see, we already have a bit of a glow. I'll try and increase the range a bit. I think something like this looks good. Perfect. Now there is one last thing that we are missing. If I go ahead and solo the layer of Iman's animation and my gray line, for example, we are going to be able to see that here his line is rounded towards the end while mine isn't. So to round them, I will unsolo all the layers, and then I will go on gray line, contents, I will go on shape, and I will go on stroke because this is actually stroke, as you can see, it's not a fill. And I will go on line cap and create round cap. And as you can see, we have now our rounded gray line. Now we also want to apply it to the red line, so I will do the same thing by going on shape, stroke, and round cap. And now we have this perfect end on both sides. So now let's go ahead and drag the character above the lines so that, as you can see, the line is going to be behind him. Keep in mind that I have masked him out in Photoshop. You could mask him out also right here in After Effects if you'd like. I would just rather mask people out from photos in Photoshop because it's really quick with the quick selection tool. So now we have our lines, but as you can see, they are not moving as the image moves, they're just standing still in the same place. To fix that, I will pick this pick whip icon and I will drag it to the animator, and same for this gray line. So that right now, all of the lines will be affected by the movement of the zoom out, and they will stand in the same place in the image, as you can see, and they will be affected by the zoom out and the movement to the right and left as well. So what I have actually realized now is that the lines are a bit too long. So I will go on the line, click on S, which is scale, and instead of 108, I will go ahead and click on 105. I will do the same on the gray line, click S, and reduce the scale a bit, and this already looks way better. Then I will go on the red line and click P, and then move this upwards by, let's say, -50. Looks good on the eye level. I'll do the same below, so click on P for position, -50, and there we go. And now we need to animate the start and the end of the line. So first, let's go on Iman's animation, and let's go frame by frame until one of the lines starts to appear. I'm clicking Ctrl and the right arrow key to go one frame forward, and here's where the gray line animation starts, as you can see. Disable this view so that I can see my actual gray line. I'll actually reduce the red line as well. I will go right here and click on Add and Trim Paths. And then I will click on Trim Paths, and now I will be able to control how much of this line is shown, appears on the screen. And what I will do is I will go ahead and drag it to 0, and I will hit a keyframe, and then I will click on the solo layer for Iman's animation as well, and I will check when does this animation end, which happens to be around here. So I will go right here at this exact moment when it ends. I will click on Trim Path and I will drag it to 100. So now if I enable them both, I should be able to see that this animation starts and ends at the same time, which is perfect. However, we have a small problem, which is that our animation is not as smooth. As you can see, Iman's animation moves faster towards the end, and that's what we want to create as well. So we'll go on the gray line, highlight both of the keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, and click easy ease. Once we have done this, we'll go right here on the graph editor and we will modify these values. Make sure that you right click on the graph and you are on the speed graph, not on the value graph. So you click on the speed graph, and then we want most of the movement, we said, to happen towards the end. So this is the peak speed of the movement, and they'll simply click here and drag it towards the end. As you can see, the peak speed now is towards the end. It's as simple as that. And now I will remove the graph editor and I will check how does this look. And as you can see, it's already way better and way similar to Iman's one. Actually, I'll re-highlight everything, go on the graph editor and make it a bit closer like this. And let's see, now it should look even more similar. Yep, it's really similar. So I'll keep it like this. And one last thing that I'll do is, as you can see, his line is a bit more to the right. So I'll simply click on position and go on 20 right here so that it moves a bit more towards the right. And I will go on P here and do the same so that it's similar to the one from Iman. So to recap what we have now, we have the gray line, which is completely animated. We have the red line with the glow and it's well positioned. We just need to animate it. So let's go ahead and do that. Click enable, click disable on the gray line. Now let's go on Iman's animation and let's enable them both on the solo so that we can see both of the lines. Let's see when does the red animation start, which is here. So we'll go on the red line, close the position keyframe and reopen all of them. Go on add and look for trim paths once again. I will go here, click a keyframe on 0 in the end, and then let's move a bit forward until around here, and I will match them to make sure to be more precise. Hold control so that you have more precise control over your movement. Now as you can see, our line is moving a bit towards the other line, but you do not need to worry about this. The only reason this is happening is because we have an animation activated on our red line and it is simply not activated on the Iman's animation. In fact, if I disable the animation from Iman and I simply show ours, as you can see, now the line is standing still in the same spot. So we don't need to worry about that. Let's just focus on getting the keyframes on the animation right. So let's once again enable this stuff. So we have the bar moving, although it moves more towards the end as before. So I'll re-highlight them both, right click, keyframe assistant and click easy ease. Go on the graph editor and we want most of the movement to happen towards the end. So I'll do something like this. And let's go ahead and look at this once again. And yep, I actually want it to be more towards the end. So I'll highlight both keyframes right here and do something like this. Let's go ahead and play this, and yeah, now we are following more. I think what's happening actually is that the movement is really fast in the middle. So I'll try to highlight both of the keyframes and move everything more towards the middle like this. And let's see if this looks better. So as you can see, yeah, okay. Now I really like this. As you can see, we have a way better movement. And then it stands still for a bit and then it restarts around here. So I'll hit another keyframe and then it goes forward a bit until it changes perspective. So around here, and it goes forward. So I'll zoom in and make sure that I match them. Perfect. Let's go ahead and look at this. As you can see, the keyframes have been automatically eased. So if I highlight them, you can see that there is already this smooth curve. And that's perfect because that's what Iman's using right here. So we are completely matching his movement here already. And now we just need to match this third movement that we have here, which is going to start from exactly here. So keyframe once again. I will also move this a bit to the right. And now, as you can see, there is this last movement which ends around here and it moves until here. So let's go ahead and play this from the start. As you can see, we have the line moving, the second line, which moves, stops, moves. And as you can see, creates this really cool effect like Iman's animation, which is perfect. So what we need to do now is go ahead and create the text. So let's enable Iman's layer so that we can see what does it write in the text. Let's go ahead and create a text box, and we will write the artwork that they put in. The font that he's using is Montserrat, and then I will also go ahead and highlight the first part, the artwork, and make it bold as he's doing in his animation. Once I've done this, I'll go ahead and copy this layer, paste it, and then I will type the risks they took. So I will change this to the risks they took. I will move it below so that I can actually see what I've wrote, and I will change they took to the regular font, as you can see. And now I will copy paste once again, and I'll type the discipline to show up, and I will once again change the second part to regular font, which is perfect. Now I will unsolo all of the layers so that I can actually see what I have here, and I will put them all in the same height. So I will put it at around here. I think it could even be a bit bigger. I think 65 as the size of the text should be good. And I'll do the same here and the same here. And then I'll go ahead and highlight all of them by holding Control, and I will link them to the animator as well. So as you can see now, I have animated my text with zoom in so that it keeps the same position into the screen and it does not move in weird ways, which would have otherwise happened, which I, for example, unselect the artwork that I put in this one. You're going to see the difference right now. As you can see, it moves in a weird way and it detaches from the line, which is not what we want. As you can see, it remains here. Once the perspective changes, and it just moves in a weird way with the screen. So just make sure that you're linking it with the animator or with the pick whip icon, or by using this drop down menu. And as you can see, it's now going to follow our line perfectly. So what we want to do now is go ahead and animate this text actually. And in Iman's animation, as you can see, it appears exactly here. So let's go ahead and select our text, this one. I will click P for position on my text, and I will move it to the left by holding Shift so that I'm moving by a lot. And then I will move with Control so that I'm precise, and I just slightly put it on the left side. And now I will hit a keyframe, and I will check when does the animation stop on Iman's animation, which is around here. So let's go exactly here, and I will click a keyframe on position, and then it's going to move and it's going to disappear right here. So let's go ahead and hit the other keyframe. Now I'll disable this. I will move it here, and then on the last keyframe I will move it around here. It does not matter that you can see it. We are going to fix this later. I disabled the other two text layers, and as you can see, the animation looks like this now. There is the text that appears and then moves. However, we want it to stop for a bit. So what I will do is I will go here, Control C on the keyframe, and then I will go 5 frames backwards. Control V, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I will paste the keyframe so that, as you can see now, the artwork is standing still and then it moves out. I will highlight all of them, and I will click F9, which by the way is the same as going on right click and clicking Easy Ease. I will go on the graph editor, and let's actually see how this looks first. So we have the thing moving, stops, and then moves again. So let's look at Iman's animation here. As you can see, we have fast, slows down, and then re-goes fast, which is actually kind of what we have already. We have fast, slows down, and goes fast again. I want it to be a bit faster here, so I'll go ahead and drag this like so and like so. And now let's look at it again. Goes fast and even faster. I will do this as well here to make it a bit faster in the middle. So we have fast and fast once again. I really like this. Now I will go ahead and reduce the graph editor. I will copy these keyframes, and then I will solo the Iman's layer once again so that I can check when does the second animation start, which is exactly here. As you can see, it starts to appear. So I'll go on the risks they took, disable the solo layer, enable this one, and paste the keyframes that I've just taken from the artwork they put in. And now, as you can see, if I enable Iman's layer, the artwork they put in and the risks they took, as you can see, I will have a similar animation with the text. As you can see, they go hand in hand, which is perfect. And now what I want to do is go ahead and do the same with the last text, which is the discipline to show up. And it starts to appear around here. So that's exactly where I'll click the solo layer and click the layer and paste the keyframes. Although this looks a bit too fast at the start especially, and I have to remove the final animation. So there is some work to be done here. So the first thing that we will do is I will go ahead and click on P for position, and I will remove the last keyframe. And I will also make sure that the first keyframe here doesn't move as fast, so I will make it closer. And this is how it looks like now. As you can see, it comes like this. It's a bit late, so I will make sure that everything happens a bit faster. Let's go ahead and look at it now. It's still a bit late, as you can see, if I scroll slowly. So I'll move this keyframe forward and this one closer. So I will hide everything else so that we can only see the discipline to show up. So let's look at it. Yep, now we got there. So let's go ahead and enable all of the text layers and enable our actual animation, which is this one. So let's go ahead and see our animation now. We have this discipline to show up, which is showing, so we will have to fix that. And then we have our animation here, which is good, and our animation, which is good, and our animation, which is good as well. So the animations, the slide animations are good, but we need to fix some stuff. So first things first, let's go right here on the transform settings and let's click on opacity and bring it down to 0. Let's go forward when the perspective changes right here. Click another keyframe on 0, then let's go one frame forward and click a keyframe on 100. This will allow our text to be invisible for the whole duration of the animation and only appear later, as you can see right here. And we are done with this text. Now we need to fix the risks they took, because as you can see right here, as we scrub through, it starts to appear. So I'll go on P position. I will go right here at the first keyframe and move it slightly so that it's hidden behind the thing here, which is perfect. So now if I play this from the start, I'm going to have the work they put in, it disappears, the risks they took disappears, the discipline to show up. And that's perfect. Now the final touches that I want to have is, first off, this one goes too far. I want it to go a bit closer. The reason I want this to be closer to the left is because I want it to be a bit slower. So I'll do something like this. And now I have to make sure that the text disappears behind the head of the character. So I will move it a bit more to the right here. That's perfect. Then I will drag the character upwards so that, as you can see, now there is a part that disappears. And now what I will do is I will mask the text. So let's go ahead and mask the first text. To mask it, you go on the pen tool and you get ready to mask. So let's go ahead and check here. So here is where the text starts to go behind the head. So I will drag a mask, a rough mask, like this should be enough. And now, as you can see, everything is going to disappear. However, that's not what we want. I'll go mask and click on invert, so that basically now everything that is in this square is not going to be seen. And now we'll click the drop down menu on the mask, click a keyframe on all of these keyframes. I'll go forward 3 frames. And here, as you can see, if I go forward another frame, the text is going to appear. So I'll go back 1 frame and I will expand the mask now, like so. And as you can see, a new keyframe is going to appear. I will go forward 1, 2, and 3 frames. And as you can see, some stuff appeared. So I will drag the mask again. And now, as you can see, the text does not appear on the right side of the screen. However, there is still a bit of a problem, because if I go backwards, here some of the text is masked out. However, we do not want the mask to affect our text, meanwhile it's not behind the head yet. So we'll go ahead and drag it so that everything can be seen, and then I will go forward forward, and make sure that everything is good, and everything should be good. So now if I play this from the start, you're going to see that the text appears and then it disappears behind the head, which is perfect. So now let's go ahead and do the same with the risks they took. I will click on the layer, go on the pen tool, and create a mask like this. And then I will go on mask, invert, keyframes, and I will go some frames forward and I will drag it like so. Just make sure that you're not holding Control while you're dragging the points, otherwise you're going to remove it, as you can see. So if you do this, click Ctrl Z and then go backwards. Once again, 1, 2, 3, and then let's do this again one more time, 1, 2, 3, and we should be good. I'll just add one more just to be safe. 1, 2, 3, perfect. Now let's go ahead and see if our mask is good. So as you can see, we have the artwork that put in that is good, and then this one is good as well, and that's perfect now because the discipline to show up does not need a mask, as you have seen right here in Iman's animation. I soloed Iman's animation, and as you can see, there is only the mask on the first two, and the discipline to show up stands still. So now it's time for the details. Let's go ahead and add the smoke to the cigarette, which is not there. So I have found this online on YouTube. It's called cigarette smoke 4K 60 FPS, something like that. You'll find it in the project files, don't worry about it. So you can go ahead right here and I'll disable the volume. I will click the mode, the blending mode on screen so that all of the black disappears. And then I'll go on effects. I'll search for brightness and contrast. I will go right here, drag it, and I will reduce the brightness and increase the contrast so that the smoke is less visible. I will also go right here, go on transform and reduce the opacity to around 70 so that it's smoother. I will also reduce the scale to around 70, and now I will drag it exactly on the cigarette, which is perfect. However, as you can see, it's moving around, it's not perfectly on the cigarette, and the reason for that is because it's not linked to our null object. So let's go back, let's drag it actually on top of the cigarette. Let's make his opacity, I think, a bit higher, otherwise you can't really see it well. And let's go ahead and use the pick whip icon and drag it onto our animator. I will make sure that it's a bit more centered. And now, as you can see, our smoke is going to follow the cigarette for the whole duration of the clip, even here when the perspective changes, which is perfect. So now that we have done this, there are two more details to fix. The first one is his head moving, as you can see right here, and the second one is this black fade on the left from which the text appears. So let's go ahead and do them, and we're going to be done. So let's go ahead and create the fade first. To create the fade, you right click, new, solid, you create it black, and we'll call it fade, and then we'll create it, and as you can see, it's going to cover everything. Then what we'll go ahead and do is create a mask, and we'll create a mask as we have done before. I'll make sure to zoom out by holding Alt and using the scroll wheel, and then I will click here. I will click here by holding Shift so that I know that the line is straight, and I'll make a really big mask like so. The reason for that is because now I'll go here on the mask control and click on feather. Let's try with 10, although I think I'll need more. Yeah, let's go with 250, and I think we have our fade. I'll also move it a bit more once again, and now we have our fade. So now this is what's going to happen, and the text is going to appear from the fade like so, and then the discipline to show up as well. I really like how this is going. Let's go ahead and give this a listen with the audio.
They're going to tell you that the reason they succeeded was due to all of the hard work that they put in, the risks they took, and their discipline to show up and stay consistent day after day.
So the last thing that we need now is to go ahead and recreate this head movement. And to do that, we will use the puppet tool. Now, do not worry, I will animate it in a way which is really easy to use. And that's how I animate head movements, because it's way quicker than placing a bunch of points on the animation and all of that stuff. So the way I animate it is I go on the character and I click on the puppet tool, and now I can place a bunch of points. Now all the points that we need is place them on the shoulders, then one right here on the neck, and one right here. The reason is we want to create this kind of wall that separates the rest of the body from the head that we are going to move. That's all that we need. Now you go on this point right here on the head, you hold control, and then as you can see, you can move your head slowly like this. And as you can see, once you have done that, you're going to see that your head is moving already. And it's way easier than moving it manually every time. Now we need to fix a bunch of stuff. The first thing is that whenever the perspective changes, it's going to be completely deformed because you do not have time to react with your cursor to the perspective change. So what I will do is I will go ahead and I will go on the deform, I will go on the puppet pin tool, and I will delete all of the keyframes, and I will redo this. So let's go ahead and do this slowly and smoothly, something like this, so that it's not moving too much. And let's go ahead and give it a look. So as you can see, we have these smooth movements like so, and then we have this big deform afterwards, which we are going to remove. So we go on our puppet pin 4, which is this one, and we make sure that we remove this keyframe, which is the highly deformed one. And then on this 4, we need to check which keyframes are good and which keyframes are bad, or if we need to space them. So let's go ahead and give the first one a look. I'd say that the first movement is a bit too fast. So I'll go ahead and move the keyframe like so. And now we're going to have a way smoother movement, which is perfect. Then for the second keyframe, we have a movement that is too fast. So I'll remove this one and put this something like in the middle. And now, as you can see, we have a way smoother movement with our head. However, what we have here is the head that is getting bigger, and we do not like this. So I'll make it something like this. Let's see how this looks now. So I'll modify this slightly like so. And let's go ahead and give everything a look. So we have the smooth movement, perfect, perfect. All right, I really like this. Now we need to deform on the second change of perspective. So let's go right here, which is where the perspective changes. Let's go one frame forward, and let's hold control and redo the thing here. So let's slightly modify this. So we have placed a bunch of keyframes now by holding control and moving slightly the player head. Let's look at how this looks. It's not too bad. I think we have a good baseline to start from. So I'll go right here and check the first movement. And the first movement is good, it's just too fast. So I'll remove this and make this slower. Let's go ahead and watch it. And yeah, okay. Now I want to use this movement but make it slower. So I'll remove this one and make this longer. So let's go ahead and watch this now. We have smooth, slow, slow, and here it becomes a bit bad. So we have slow, and here it becomes a smaller face, as you can see. And we do not want this. So I'll make it a bit higher. Let's go ahead and watch it again. We have this, and I want to remove this one and make this longer. Let's go ahead and give it a look once again. And yep, I like this more. So I think we've gotten our animation. Let's go ahead and watch it in full screen.
They're going to tell you that the reason they succeeded was due to all of the hard work that they put in, the risks they took, and their discipline to show up and stay consistent day after day.
And now there is one last touch that I want to add. And if we pay close attention to Iman's animation, you can see that in the bottom left there is this kind of particles here, and I want to add them as well. I already have an overlay. It's of course shared in the files of the project. So I'll drag it in, I'll put it above everything. I will make sure that it is on the blending mode, which is screen. I will remove the solo mode. I will reduce the opacity to around 30. And as you can see, this is the final result.
They're going to tell you that the reason they succeeded was due to all of the hard work that they put in, the risks they took, and their discipline to show up and stay consistent day after day.
If you want more free stuff, you can check the description. There's a free After Effects course for beginners. If you're starting out as an After Effects guy and you don't know what's an anchor point, just check the description. There is a beginner course. It's completely free. It's going to take you 5 minutes to log in, and you're going to have a free 2-hour course all for you. So yeah, it's just stupid not to do it. Have a great day.